Hi there, I'm Trev, I'm a geek and this is Geekology. I'm going to talk to you today about the KBEAR Believe. The KBEAR Believe is an event-changing in-ear monitor. This is a single driver dynamic in-ear monitor that uses a special strength beryllium metal. Our first and second driver shell with what they believe are the best sounding tips provided in the box on them already. Some compli tips, leather or leather effect case with a nice responsive clasp for it, and tons of tips. I've gone into great length on my website about those. Some more tips. And a rather nice looking 2-pin cable with a Velcro strap. It's not a right angle jack, but it's a pretty posh jack. Nice plastic clear terminations there. Here's our shiny 2-pin terminations here, and we also have a chin strap. As you can see on the terminations, that one has to be black and that one has to be red or right. Black left, red right. So that's the left. And this is the right. What's the KBEAR actually like? Ladies and gents, it's really good. For the retail price of under 200, approximately 160, 180 pounds, the Believe really is good. Irrespective of whether you believe that the diaphragm is made from pure beryllium, in much the same way as the final A8000 and the Duna Luna, which are in the £1,000 brackets. These do have an exceptionally good sound quality for this sort of end of the market. Once you've got your head around which tips suit you best, and I would strongly advise that unless you have some favourite tips of your own, that you stick with these to start with, the reds, you'll find that you've got a near electrostatic type delivery in the mids and highs. The highs are just shy of being fatiguing. There is lots of detail. The mids and highs are clear. Micro effects are quite easy to pick out. The sound doesn't drift or lose your concentration, and the bass is slightly visceral on these tips, and other tips that are supplied will produce much more bass, but you will get some detraction in the mids and highs. I would have liked to have seen a right angled jack, and I would have liked to have seen a QDC connection rather than a 2-pin, which is quite fiddly to get in. You have to be extremely careful to avoid bending the pins. These are tiny criticisms for what is an absolutely excellent earphone. All of my evaluation so far has been done on the Aslan Khan AK380 flagship, or former flagship, digital audio player. It's got the amp module attached to it, which is why it's so big and chunky, and obviously it doesn't need the amp, and the 3.5mm connection is more than adequate for it. To get a feel for what was going on with the sound, these were tested against and compared with the Sony XBA4 IP, which is a 4-driver old Sony in-ear monitor. IP stands for iPhone, by the way. The Etymotic ER4XR, which has more bass than their original series, and they were one of the first manufacturers to do in-ear monitors. I also tested it against the ACS Evoke Studio, single driver, now discontinued. It retailed at $299, and the NF Audio NM2 Plus. The first thing I wanted to tell you about all of those was, other than this one and the NF Audio NM2 Plus, excellent fits into the whole of the outer ear, which gives me some hope for the future. The Etymotic, ACS and Sony were poor fitting. Comfort and getting the sweet spot right can only be realistically achieved every time if you've got a decent fit. The Believe absolutely ticks that box. The ACS Evoke Studio, which retailed at £299 when it was released, is the only one that could really beat any aspect of the Believe. It beat the mids. The ACS Evoke Studio were just slightly more linear. The overall feel of the Evoke Studio compared to the Believe was that the Evoke Studio was a thinner sounding, less bassy in-ear monitor compared to the Believe, which had a thicker, sweeter sounding delivery with not quite as much realism and detail as the ACS. All the others underwhelmed compared to the Believe. You want to know whether I recommend the Believe? Unreservedly, this is a decent upgrade to any £100 or lower earphone that I've come across. If you're using a decent source, because these will need a little bit of power and demand a little bit of luxury, hence why I've been using them on my AK380. Other than the couple of bits on the cable, there is very little to fault here. These are certainly something I would recommend you try. I listen to a lot of synth, pop, rock and classical music, and I was very impressed with what I was listening to. I hope you will be too. If you do end up getting a pair, or you get hold of something that you think is even better, then please don't hesitate to drop me a line. Please don't forget to subscribe. I look forward to having you with me on the next episode of Geekology. Until then, goodbye.